I'm sure many of you have seen, experienced, or felt the ongoing crisis in the NCAA with all the foreign athletes or these 26-year-old freshmen. And it's one thing for me to sit down and talk about it and complain about it. It's another to have a thoughtful, interesting discussion with one of the best coaches in NCAA modern history, Coach Chris Miltenberg. The majority of our discussion talks about sort of this new state, this new era of the NCAA, but our conversation isn't 100% about that. We also talk about the state of the UNC program, some different subjects and conversations around the NCAA, his athletes, his thoughts on, Marco Langen and Simeon Birnbaum and Jane Hedegren and where his program is headed. But a majority of our conversation does take place on these subjects, and I thought it was a really honest, thoughtful discussion and conversation. I always want to hear what you guys think, so leave a comment down below on Spotify or YouTube. I'll make sure to get to it. I love responding and interacting with you guys. And tell me the gaps in my own thinking. If you disagree with me, I'd love to hear it. I think the best thing that we can do in society today is have thoughtful and meaningful conversation. And that's what I did today with Coach Milt, who has become a honestly friend at this point, close friend, which is crazy to me because years ago I looked up to this guy, and I've been so blessed by the athletes that he's coached who have also blessed me indirectly. So Coach Milt's the man. Love the guy to death. Coach Milt, if you're listening, thanks for all your contributions to the sport. And really enjoyed my thoughtful discussions with him as always. If you enjoy this one, please give us a 5-star review, share the podcast with a friend, and make sure you are following the podcast so you don't miss more high quality conversations that come out every other day. My DMs, email, always open. Feedback, suggestions, hate mail, bring it on. I'm here for it all. 21-year-old trying to make it in this world and trying to make a meaningful impact in the process. Enjoy this, honestly, just really, really good, deep, thoughtful conversation with NCAA legend and coach at the University of North Carolina, go Tar Heels, Coach Chris Miltenberg. Coach Milt, I'm going to ask you a question that everyone else is thinking, but no one else will address. What the hell is going on in the NCAA right now?
I think, I think there's a lot to talk about there. And I don't really know if I know any of the answers. I'm still trying to make sense of what we're seeing. But I do think here we are now, a week removed from the NCAA Championships or so, a week and a half. And if you didn't feel this way leaving Eugene, that this is a critical moment, that something has shifted, then I don't think you were paying close enough attention. I'm worried. I'm definitely think there's an opportunity here, but there's some important things that like everybody needs to define how they're going to go about it going in the future. And I think what you're getting at is just what we even saw of women's 5,000, 1 through 8 was all Kenyan international athletes that came through recruiting services. Men's 10,000, 1 through 9 was that. And some of the marquee programs, are really, I'd like to think us being maybe on the fringe of being one of them, had minimal presence at this meet right now too. Washington the same, NAU the same, BYU limited, and again, I say that not as a criticism. We're one of them in that boat as well, and so it definitely makes you realize there is a paradigm shift happening, and you have to decide who you're going to be and what you're going to do within it, which is what we're thinking about a lot.
What's the conversation like with the AD or whoever you talk to within the facilities where obviously UNC, this mecca of a sports program across every sport, dominance is expected, championships are expected. And it's tricky for you where you want to win, but you want to win the right way. And so what happens if there's reality where a year down the road, you're getting 20th every time because you're refusing to go international? What's the conversation like internally right now? Have you had those conversations where it's like, hey, I want to win the right way, but man, how much longer can we hold out here?
Yeah, I try to be so thought out and careful in how I talk about these subjects because I don't know what it's like in anybody else's situation. I don't know the expectations or pressures that anybody is feeling in their institution. I only know mine and what I'm working in every day. And I will say to your point, like, how do these conversations go here? Well, first of all, they make me so grateful that I work at a place like North Carolina that has a soul, that has a commitment to doing things the way that makes sense for North Carolina. And I don't want to say the right way or the wrong way, but the way that makes sense for us here. And the conversations we're having here, and ironically to your question, we're in transition from our athletic director who hired me to our new one who's taken over, and they've overlapped for a year. And so it's been really awesome to bring Steve, our new athletic director, up to speed and understanding all this stuff. And he's been super inquisitive and curious of, hey, explain to me what's going on in the landscape with these recruiting services that I've told him about, the age discrepancies. And he's great because the reason he's here and the reason I'm here is we believe in doing it our way that makes sense for us. And that is kids that are going to thrive academically at North Carolina, that fit our culture, that are going to stay. We've had very, very few that don't stay the entire time. And so, again, and ours has always been like, hey, we're going to do what works for us. We want to be among the best teams in the country, but there's only one way that we can do it, is the way that works for us here. And gosh, man, through all this, man, it makes me really happy to be here in a place where we have support and alignment on that too.
I started with the negative, shifting towards the positive. We talked about this with Ethan and Parker going pro, and then I have years around the sport. I know that you're offered opportunities left and right because you are one of the greatest college coaches in modern day NCAA history. Why stay in the NCAA in this era when you've had the chance to sort of get out of it?
Yeah, certainly something I think a lot about still. And, I think there's two parts right now for me, like one that's timeless and one that's very timely is, one, man, dude, I love it. I do. I love it. I love this age group. I love what happens when they come in at 18 and they leave at 22, 23, that evolution that happens, being a part of that. I think that's one part. I love coaching teams, which, yes, there's an element of that in the pro side, but there's nothing like coaching a cross-country team. There is nothing like the morning of the NCAA cross-country teams championships when you got a team in it. I love coaching teams. I love that age category. But I'd say the last part that feels very of the moment right now is like personal responsibility. Man, I leave that NCAA meet and I look around. And again, I want to be so careful how I say this because there is not a right and a wrong. There's not a good and a bad. There's not an evil and a bad and a good. But there is an us. And as somebody who, I like to feel like played a very, very, very small role in helping Americans become so relevant on the world level over the last 10 years with hopefully setting Grant up, playing some role in Grant getting success that he's had, setting Parker and Ethan up for the future, so, several others. There's a moment here right now, and I look around and I think, man, if I don't do it, and Mike Smith left college, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Right. And I look at some of my peers, Andy Powell and I are, the exact same age, been doing this a long time. I'm like, dude, we're the ones left, right? Who are like, we're going to do this the way that works for us. And it doesn't mean not international ever. It just means a certain way about going about it. And so I have this of the moment feeling like, man, if not us, then who? And I don't want it to slip away. I don't want Americans to become irrelevant on the world level again. I don't want college distance running to become transactional entirely. And so, yeah, right now I'm excited. I'm kind of really fired up of just like to prove we can do it our way and still compete too.
What's interesting is even though at the highest ranks in the NCAA, we're seeing less and less Americans, for whatever reason, at the pro level, the Americans are doing better than ever. What are your thoughts on why that's the case?
Well, what I'm worried about is that there's lag time on that. Right.
Yeah,
what I'm worried about is that's going to play out in the future, and we're only going to see it when it's too late. Because I think the success of the Americans on the world level that we are seeing now started 15 years ago. Right. It started 15 years ago with, one, the big commitment Nike made to creating pro groups with Alberto and then with Jared Schumacher. I think then there's been even increased, investment, but that takes time to catch up. And so what we're seeing now, what Grant has done, what Parker and Ethan, I believe, are going to do. I mean, Galen Rupp, there's several examples, right? Like, man, that all started 10 to 15 years before it actually happened. I'm far worried we're about to see it the other way, is in 10 to 15 years and maybe less, maybe one Olympic cycle away from all of a sudden being like, oh, shoot, the NCAA is the single greatest development system in the world, and we're not leveraging enough to develop not just world-class athletes, but American athletes to be world-class too.
I think the foreign aspect is one aspect. For me, the age is another. I think it was the girl who won the 5K. Pardon for not knowing her name. She's a 26-year-old freshman. Are there any rules in place to stop that sort of thing? Because again, it's one thing for me to support someone coming over and being a part of the NCAA as a foreign student athlete, but it's another when you're 26 and you can think of names who you coached who are pros and aren't even 26 and have been out of your program for years. And if they came back in the NCAA, they'd crush,
Yeah, I think that's the one that if we have any chance to contain this in the future, it will hopefully be around the age aspect of it, right? I do think that is one thing that can be universal, and that is really difficult right now. It's really difficult. I think about the disparity between an 18-year-old and like you said, there are 26, 27-year-olds in the NCAA, and that's a big, big discrepancy. And so what I worry about is while we are developing our 18, 19, 20 year olds, man, they're getting no traction. They're getting no traction. They're getting no momentum. And momentum is the most powerful thing in your development, right? And so it's so difficult to get momentum and get traction right now that I'm worried that a lot of people, well, Americans or not, wherever they are, man, if you're 18 against 27-year-olds, even 20 against 27-year-olds, and you just don't ever get the ball rolling. And like I said, momentum is the most powerful thing. So I'm hopeful that the age thing is where maybe we can come to some agreements in the future here. But I'm really not seeing anything on the horizon yet. I hear a lot of talk. And again, I don't want to be somebody that's just complaining. I'm right now like trying to just be in thinking mode. I wouldn't say I'm in action mode yet. I'm in thinking mode of like, okay, what does this look like for us? What do we do to stay competitive and true to our values at the same time? And I really, really do believe there is a way for us still.
You hear it a lot in college football. I listen to a decent amount of college football podcasts. You're in the know of the running world, track and field, cross country. So I'm curious, like the football world talks about, hey, we got to bring this to Congress. We need all this legislation. We got to get Congress involved. That's how we'll stop these certain issues in college football. Is it a similar, like how do some of these rules actually come into effect? Would it be through Congress? Would it be through the NCAA itself? Are those competing bodies? How does some of this stuff come into play?
Yeah, dude, I would be lying if I say I fully know the mechanics of how that is all going to work. I think I have an understanding of it. I do think what you're seeing, or at least what we hear on the NCAA side, is a movement towards more sport specific legislation instead of overarching legislation. Because I think every sport, from what I am gathering, has its version of this, right? Whether it's, like you said, some of the football challenges, basketball's got their own. This one is like it's unique to us and it isn't unique to us, right? It's just a variation on it. So I think you're seeing more of a movement towards sports specific legislation, none of which has happened yet, but that's certainly like the conversations I've been involved in is like, hey, give us feedback on your sport and we'll try to make specific legislation. So yeah, I think there's a lot of routes it can go, right? I mean, yes, some big sweeping changes could come from the government side of it. That's part of it. I also think it's just there's a lot of different avenues, and I can't claim to know exactly what they all are.
What's difficult too, at least from my perspective of talking to the athletes themselves, because I try to be fair and balanced, right? I'll talk to Americans about the issue, but then also when I have on, foreign athletes, I also like to, ask them, hey, what's your experience? And it's like, well, they're not going to say no to a system that allows them to come over, right? And so that's the tough thing too, is it's like, I think they understand. So I had on Haley Kitching yesterday, Penn State girl, crazy breakthrough, runs 157 in the 8. And she's from Australia, I believe. Australia, New Zealand, I think Australia. And, she's talking about, the positive of coming over, and her parents came over, and, Australia has a deep history in the NCAA of sending over athletes. And then I asked her the question, I'm like, okay, well, at what point are we too far gone? And she kind of chuckled, and that's only everything I needed to know of like, even these athletes who are coming over, I think see it as well, but they're not going to not come over because the opportunity is right there. Like, why would you not? The NCAA is the greatest institution for collegiate athletics in the world.
Yeah, and again, I keep saying the same thing, but I want to be so careful how I word this because I am not by any means anti-international athletes coming into the NCAA, and that has been around forever. Like it really has. And if you look at it over the history, it's also ebbed and flowed in waves, right? And there have been periods where it was at a high concentration and then low. And I think we're obviously at an all-time high right now. This is unprecedented what we're seeing, but we don't really know what the future will bring yet. But I do think we're at an all-time high. And I'm by no means opposed to, look, if we want, we can't have it both ways, right? We can't keep this thing to ourselves and then claim they want to compete with the best in the world, right? Part of that is being exposed to competing against world-class athletes when you're in the NCAA, right? That's the only way the Americans are going to be globally competitive, is if we get exposed to that. So I think there's actually an inherent value to this. I just think there's some guardrails or some consistencies that maybe we need to think about and figure out. And I don't claim to have the answers on this. I'm said more in observation and thinking mode on this, because it is definitely way different than even 1 year ago, let alone 5 years ago. I would say even a year ago, 2 years ago, it is dramatically different what we saw. The uptick in just people that have been delivered by these recruiting services. And so, yeah, I think it's all in thinking stages for me right now, but I'm not anti. Look, we have a few, we have a male and female athlete coming from New Zealand. I had a Jesse Hunt on my team several years ago, who was Australian, who was on the team in North Carolina when I got here. I'm like, look, man, I love Jesse Hunt as much as any American kid I ever coached, right? So, like, there's not like some evil line in the sand that because he's not American. But so to me, the two big things I'm on today are, one, I think, like everybody, age, right? Age is a big component of this. Two, and I have no even remote proposals or ideas on how to change this, or if it ever gets walked back. But the impact of these recruiting services, that's really a huge driving force behind it. And look, when there's money to be made, people will find a way. And I have a big kind of line in the sand for me of like, hey, if you get on a plane and you travel around the world and you're going to recruit and build relationships with these kids, hey, man, more power to you. That's work. Like, that's hard work. That is doing the thing. Like, that is doing the thing. Paying a service to deliver these people to you, that is a very, very different thing. I have never done that. I can't conceive of what that would even feel like to do that. And I'm also not judging anybody that does, because I don't know the pressures and realities of their situations. But I think that, to me, is maybe a line in the sand as much as the age is how are you going about getting them here. But listen, man, this ain't changing. This ain't going back ever, ever. Okay, like, this is big business. This is global. So, like, this is the reality. Recruiting services will be part of it, and that's not changing. And so, yeah, how do we do it our way while also adapting to the times?
What do those look like for those that don't understand? It's like recruiting service finds a kid in Kenya, and then X school, we'll say Ohio State, even though they're not doing it, but just because I'm in Columbus, Ohio State then pays recruiting service to bring kid over. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I think that's been the recent shift in the model, as I understand it. And is, these things have been around a very, very long time. But the previous model was the recruits and the families paying the service to build a bridge, a connection with the NCAA coaches. Where the model shifted in the last several years is now the payments coming from the universities, right? And it's coming from the universities to identify these athletes. I don't want to use the right wording here. I don't want to say deliver, might not be the right word, but whatever that bridge is that gets them to your campus, that is the service they provide. But the payment is coming from the university now, no longer from the family. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. That's just where it's changed and shifted over the last several years, that I don't think was historically the case in the past.
You have bosses and people to report to. I report to myself, so I'll put a line in the sand here myself. Not speaking for you, speaking for me. I mean, what we've done and what you just described there is monopolizing what should be a developmental league. Like, he was really good in high school. I'm trying to think who he runs for now. Maybe Utah State. I might have it wrong. I know he ran JUCO, but Michael Mariano, really good kid in high school, still chopping it up in the NCAA. He described it really well to me. He's like, the NCAA, to professional running should be like what AAA is to AA to, the MLB. He's like, but we're making it the MLB, and schools are trying to make it the MLB when it should be like AAA. And that's, as you know, in any corporation across time, when it only becomes about the money, shady stuff starts to happen, and you start to risk the integrity of the sport. And the amount of DMs I got or emails I got over the weekend, I didn't even watch a lot of NCAAs. I tuned in for key races. But the amount of people who said, I'm sick of this, I'm not watching, this isn't fun anymore. I'm like, they're trying to piss off the fans. So I don't think we're even understanding those repercussions either. Like, I think if NCAA's as it was this year happens again next year, like people aren't going to spend a couple $1,000s to take their son to Eugene. Like it's just not fun, you know?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree, man. I was there. It was different. It was really just different than in the past. And again, not right or wrong. I am not living under the pressures that some of these coaches clearly or certainly say they are at their institutions. So I am not judging by any means. You got to do what you have to do. I'm just glad I'm not in a situation where somebody is pressuring me enough that I feel I have to do things I don't want to do or don't agree with, or that don't fit us is a better way to put it. But yeah, it's definitely changed. But look, man, the NCAA Championships is the second best track meet in the world now. Okay, on an annual basis, it is arguably the second best track meet in the world outside of the Olympics and World Championships, whichever is happening that year. I mean, that's awesome. On one level, that is awesome. Like that is really, really powerful, right? To think like this is what this thing, and this has been true for a while, right? I mean, you think about what those 4x4s and those 400s have become. I mean, this is world class running happening in the NCAA. I love that. Like, I am not opposed to that. I love that. Like, iron sharpens iron. Let's raise the bar. So it's by no means like crying over that. I do think as we said, the age thing. That's where it becomes maybe just a little bit worrisome to me about just like we also can have this be the second best track meet in the world and a great developmental system. They don't have to be mutually exclusive to each other. And I think the age thing is how we can still keep that developmental part more in there. So, yeah, that's the part I think a lot about is like this is still the greatest like building block to be in world class too.
I wonder how much of it too is like, what are you optimizing for? Or how do you define success would maybe be the better question. Because I know if I asked you that question 5 years ago, or if I asked you that question today, it wouldn't just be winning championships. And I think the problem is that the schools, and I have honestly no names in my mind as I'm saying this, but like the schools that only care about winning championships, those are the ones who are not necessarily going to think about the quality of individual developing that individual. I'm sure you've heard horror stories. I have too. I won't share them on the podcast of these kids who come over and they have no life or it's like if you sent me to Kenya as an 18-year-old and like no one really held my hand in the process. And so it's like, do you actually care about the athlete or are you just using the athlete? Because I know if I asked you or a bunch of the other coaches I talk to on the podcast frequently, it's like they would talk about in terms of success, how so much more of their success is developing the athlete, making them a better person than they found them than just championships. But I think a big problem is because a lot of these schools are just optimizing for titles. A lot of these kids are miserable. They like don't understand what it's like living in the States. It's a crazy, drastic change. I mean, we're seeing all these funny tweets on Twitter of these people coming over for the World Cup and like, shocked by American culture. And it's like, well, imagine that as an 18-year-old. And now you have all the pressure of winning because your scholarship's directly tied to it. It's a really hard place to be as an 18-year-old who doesn't even speak the language.
Yeah. And honestly, I just don't know because I haven't done it. Right. So I really don't know. And so I try not to just formulate an opinion on something I haven't experienced or done. So I don't want to like leap to that conclusion that just because you have international athletes or you paid a recruiting service that you don't care about them. I mean, look, there is a lot of evidence that says you could jump to that conclusion, but I don't want to just jump to that conclusion because I don't know what their life is like day to day. One thing I do think is it's a lot of work as a coach. I do think onboarding these people and helping them adapt is a lot of work. And so I don't want to claim that they don't care. I don't know. I just don't know. It's completely different than anything I think I've experienced. So I'm like, again, in a learning mentality and trying to understand this. And I want to be so careful. Like, I do think it's really easy to just be in two different camps and then kind of say, hey, this is what they do. They don't care. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, if I have one of these athletes, maybe once they're there a week, you forget where they're from and you just care about them the way you care about everybody. I want to believe that. Like, I really want to believe that. I would say the transient nature of the transferring leads me to question if that is true because there is so much jumping around within a lot of these athletes too that you certainly could formulate a theory on is what's happening there. But again, I don't claim I know that for sure that I've done it. I just know what we're not doing and what it feels like here. But look, to be honest, man, like we got our ass kicked too. Like we were irrelevant this week, and so I'm wrestling with that too. Is like I want to stay 100% true to my values, but man, I also know that we want to be competitive because in the pursuit of being competitive is how like, all those things you said, man, develop all the life skills, all the lessons that come. They come through the pursuit of excellence. So we just got to define what our excellence is going to be, and like we're not giving in. We're not acquiescing. We're not giving in. That's for sure. We just got to figure out a way that fits for us to get back to being competitive. And look, I know there was a Parker Wolf, there was an Ethan Strand, so I just got to find the next one. Right, they're out there, and I think I've got them in the system. Now I just got to really, really develop them again too.
I think that saving grace is you look across any sport, and in terms of problems, we're not too far gone. Like I don't know if you saw the Brandon Sorsby scandal. Do you see that?
I did. Yep.
Yeah, it's
I followed that
crazy.
a little
So
bit.
for those that don't know, this kid has placed like thousands of bets as a student athlete, while and he placed some bets while he was on that specific team, and it's like, oh man, okay, we think we have, and I think that some judge, because these judges are college football fans and in bed with these schools, ruled to allow them to continue to play, and it's like, in what reality should that be acceptable? So now I think he's not. I think he's going through like the NFL supplemental draft, so I don't think he'll be playing. But it seems every sport is wrestling with these, like, so gambling, for instance, with football, like that's a new reality, right? That like gambling is on the fingertips of most 18-year-olds. And it's an addiction, right? So people fall into it. So I think we're just also wrestling with just some of the new realities of sports in 2026 across the board, not just running. That's my saving light. Is I'm like, this isn't just a running issue. This is every NCAA sport.
Yeah, I do think every sport has their version of this in some different way, right? It's kind of one of the fascinating parts of being on a campus and talking to all the different coaches here, and everybody is experiencing their version of it. And honestly, for the last couple years, I have walked away from every one of those conversations and been like, "Oh, we're doing pretty good. Like we're okay over here. Like we're okay. Like this really hasn't infiltrated us. This hasn't become challenging, or honestly, as you talk to some coaches, like just a fairly like miserable experience. Like I've never felt that way. I don't feel that way today, right? But something's happening here for sure, right? If you were in Eugene, you notice something is happening for sure. And I do think one of those somethings, and I don't know if this is bad or good. It's a very, very tight consolidation of which teams actually have a shot near the top right now. Teams and individuals, and I don't know if that's inherently bad, but again, it's a shift, right? We were the sport where there still could be I mean, as a Georgetown guy, right? Like the Big East Conference, not about, but like there's a Georgetown guy who won national titles 2 years ago. It's like I'm worried that is going to get harder and harder in the future to do here right now. I mean, certainly this weekend would indicate it is.
You told that story, I think, the first time we did a podcast with each other, winning your first NCAA title, cross country with a woman, if I'm not mistaken, get on the bus, on to the next thing. Do you regret that moment looking back now that it is just so dang hard to win one?
I mean, look, it's always been hard to win one. It was never easy. I think it was just different then. And I think, yeah, you and I have talked about this. Like, I think that's a regret I hold in a lot of places. Like, yeah, if I could go back, I would have slowed down and enjoyed things more. I think as I get older, I'm getting way, way better at that. But that's always a balancing act, right? Because you do want to get it. I love the craft, right? I love the craft way more than the end result. Like, I love the craft of like pursuing being great, not just savoring it when it happens too. So that's the one I'm always still working on.
As you think to, the next generation, you guys kind of got all the top recruits this year. I'm sure Ian was a big part of it. You got Marcelo, all these M names and then NCAA. Marcelo, Caden, Oliver. I mean, you guys are getting the cream of the crop. Does that make you excited in terms of you've had these conversations of developing the next Ethan and Parker? You've got some good prospects lined up to fill those shoes one day.
Yeah, dude, I think for us, we did what we do incredibly well the last 2 years. And really, as you alluded to, the credit to that is 100% with Ian. And I think our guys, right? Our guys and what, the standard they established, and not just Parker and Ethan, but Colton and some of the other guys, and proof of concept for sure. And look, I've got an incredible group that just finished their freshman year. I've got an incredible group that's going to show up here in 6 weeks. You can't tell them by name because they're not signed, but I've got two of the best guys in America committed in the next class already. Man, those 11 guys are my next 5 years, and we're going to do it again. And you know what's the funny thing about all this, Dominic? Recruiting almost got easier for us because there are less of us trying in these spaces. There are so few of us trying in these spaces and recruiting these elite American kids. It got easier. It used to be that you were in the battle with 10 school teams. Now you're in the battle with 2 or 3 because a lot of them aren't even trying in this space at all anymore. So it's never easy, but Ian and I would joke about this often. It's like, how are we the only ones down this road? And sometimes that's a scary moment too, because I do think, and this is now going to sound fairly defeatist and negative, but like, man, unless you are a 1A American kid, you probably never help us. Like, that is just a reality now. Like, unless you are like a 1A American kid, I don't know if you actually can ever make an impact with us again. The level we want to be at, the level of the game now. I mean, let's just look at the data from this past weekend. It's not encouraging, right? I mean, it's not. You know, you work. You've had Joey Pointer on, and you work closely with the Fleet Brook. You know, as after they took over what used to be Foot Locker, and you know, I've talked about this with Joey. It's just like, look, man. I mean, 20 years ago, the kid that won Foot Locker, just play the odds. Statistical probability that they were at least an All-American in cross country was very high. Now those odds are way lower. Like, those odds are way, way lower. So you could kill yourself recruiting the Foot Locker national champion. The probability that he actually helps you at this level is not all that high anymore. Like, doesn't mean it's not possible, but you better find the right one. You got to find the right ones. And I think that's what we and really Ian did so well, is not just did we get great guys on paper, but I think we got the right ones that can develop at the next level here still too.
What would you say to the 410 high school miler listening who's defeated that 10 years ago they would have been one of your top recruits and now they probably couldn't get recruited if they tried?
Honestly, man, I really don't know. I really don't, because I also know that it's not a good experience to go in and be in over your head. Like, it's really not. Like, I would tell that kid, find a place that you matter. There is still somewhere out there for you. Find a place that you matter. And it might be different than what you thought it was when you started this process. It certainly is different than it was 5 and 10 years ago. Don't just go to the back end of a team to say you were on an elite team. Mattering matters, right? Whether that means you're going Division III, whether that means you're going mid-major, go to a place where you matter. It's still out there. It just does look different than it did 5 and 10 years ago, or even 2 years ago. Find where you're going to matter. Find a coach and a system that's going to be invested in you, and still love the pursuit of finding out how good you can really, really be. Right. But don't do that thing I think a lot of kids do, which is like, no, I have to be on an SEC team. I've got to be on a Power 5 team. Honestly, that's going to be a shitty experience. Like, you're going to be in the back. You're not going to matter. And again, not because the coach doesn't care. It's just the reality of the level of it right now. You know, one of my best friends is a high school coach who was a great Division III runner. And we talk a lot about like how he steers his guys when they're asking his opinion. And it's something he talks a lot about, is like the idea of go where you matter. And he said he sees a lot of guys over his time who, especially the dads, come in and the dads are like, no, coach, we're going D1. And it's like, man, you can go D1. You're going to be the last guy on a mediocre roster, or you can go D3 and have an awesome experience because you're going to matter. You're going to develop. You're going to be part of the team and contribute. And like, man, I stand by that advice at any level. It's like, go where you're going to matter. So, long answer to your question, man. I guess that's the advice I would give. But yeah, it's hard on our side of it, because I look at all these kids and I'm like, I think they can get better, but it'll take 5 years. And can they stay motivated for 5 years? Can they stay motivated and inspired for 5 years of getting their ass kicked to then contribute later? That's equally the challenge I would put back on the athletes. Is like, have realistic expectations of how long and hard this is going to take before you get any rewards.
Your brother's a high school coach, right?
He is, yep.
Yeah. Do you talk to him at all about like, hey, what are you hearing? What are your athletes saying?
Yeah. I mean, particularly, and gosh, I'd be careful not to name it by name, but like, he's the state he's in, the flagship state university, isn't recruiting the kids in the state anymore. And, so I think, you hear that ripple down through the high school coaches, conversations, and just, I think it's discouraging on a lot of levels, you know. But also, like, for him, like, we talk about this too, high school is where there's still purity, right? Like, there is still purity of development, experience, life skills that all should never ever go away, high school or college level.
Yeah, I think my issue with most of the conversations we've had today is that it's at the expense of the American high schooler who has the D1 dream. And the fact that the NCAA is an American institution. You can say all you want that, we've had, people from out of the country come into the system for as long as it's existed. Sure, true. But I think at what point we need to stop and say, okay, we need to stop and redo things is when the average high schooler who's actually excellent is being affected. I mean, 5 years ago, if I would have told you that you weren't going to recruit a 4.0x guy, you probably wouldn't have believed me. Like, that was your top guy at Stanford back in the day.
Yeah, it's interesting, and the bar just goes up, right? So again, this is where I am so torn. I everything you just
But
said.
The problem with that then is then we're professionalizing high school sports, and you're getting kids who are burnt out coming to you. Because what a high schooler right now is hearing is saying 410 is not good enough, so now I need to train like a 402 guy to get Milt's attention, and maybe he can run 402 in high school, but he doesn't have the Mike Scannell, Graham Fisher approach where he's coming into you, half baked, and then you can develop him.
No, and that's a great point. And everything you said before, like, there is a huge part of me in my heart that agrees with everything you're saying of, like, wait a minute, man, like, opportunities for American kids. I mean, if you really want to get granular, you could even argue, like, American taxpayers support these universities. But even long past that is, like, I do totally, part of me feels that and very strongly feels that. It's like, dude, I still feel a personal responsibility to develop kids, from North Carolina, American kids. Also, like, we can't shy away from the bar going up. And the reality is the NCAA in every sport is a global institution now, right? It was too good. It was too good. Like, there's no way anybody wasn't going to find a way to get here. It's great. Well, what we provide is incredible. And so it is a global institution right now. I just think you can balance that, right? Like, you can balance that with still development, investment in people, pouring into people. And so that's the line I'm trying to figure out how to thread. And as I, said several times, like, I'm in more thinking mode than I am answers mode at this point, of just who are we going to be? What are we going to do? And, like, we are still competitive, man. And so I just know there's a way. Like, there is a Parker, there is an Ethan, right? There is a Michaela Page. Like, there is a way. And thank God, like, we can point to those examples and be like, yeah, okay, there's still a pathway. You got to find the right ones. You got to stick with them, develop them. I do think I have some of those in place right now. But then they've got to know what the mountain looks like now. And it looks way different than it even did for Parker and Ethan a couple of years ago, of, like, this mountain is steep from the very first day. Stick with me. We can get up it. We just kind of have to have a different plan of how we get up it now, too. But I think to your point earlier, and started going back to the high school side, that's a great point, though, is, like, you can only develop at the rate you can develop. Like, I do think that's something my brother says he observes. My buddy Greg, who I talk to a lot, says he observes, is, like, this rushed development, and more than anything, this anxiety around your development pace. That sucks. Like, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Like, I have a daughter running in high school. Like, I would not even want to ever have that infiltrate the conversation in any way. Like, I talk to my brother about this a lot, and he's like, man, all these parents, all they're talking to me about is by the end of sophomore year, well, we need to run these times to get recruited. And what I tell him to tell them, which he doesn't because they won't listen, is like, if you're meant to be recruited, you will be recruited. And if you're not, then it wasn't meant to be, right? If you're meant to be, you will be. And I really, in my heart, believe that, man. Like, and if it, like, takes, a kid flew all across the country and they ran 4 seconds faster in the 2 mile, that's the difference between me taking them or not, then I'm a bad recruiter. Because it's, like, false anyway, it's not really real. And so, yeah, stay true to your own development. What's meant to happen is going to happen.
Yeah, man. Heavy stuff. That it's also just, if you look at biology of a high school kid, specifically female biology, it's like, it's unfair. Like, their body fluctuates so much between freshman and senior year in high school, let alone college. I'm sure you've seen that so many times in your career. And so it's like, yeah, it's just not proper training. It's just not proper training. The way that we're trying to, a sophomore is so radically different than a senior. But I think it comes back to what do you want in the sport. And I think for a high schooler, it's like, yeah, like you're saying, can you submit to the fact that it's okay and you can still love running if you don't go D1? Because so many kids get into the sport because it's the D1 pipe dream, and that's what social media has affected as well. And it's like, man, if you don't run 4:05 your sophomore year, but you do your senior year, oh my gosh, you're a remarkable kid. You ran dozens of seconds faster than I ever did in high school, and I was pretty serious about the sport. It's like, why are you doing it? Are you only doing it to run D1? And if that's the case, well, then you're going to get to D1 and all you're going to be doing is thinking about winning a title or going pro. And those are decent motivations to have. But if they're the only motivations you have, you probably won't make it, or you at least won't enjoy the sport in a sustainable manner.
Yeah, no, yeah, that part I think is timeless, right? Is I do agree with that. Is like what we are filtering out in our recruiting process and always have is what are your personal goals? And if the goal was just to get here, man, that's going to be a bad experience when you get here, right? Like this is the opportunity, not the end game. This was not the goal. It's the opportunity to chase the next goal. And I do think what you said, it's so hard to get on one of these Division I rosters now that it's become more and more an elevated dream of just getting on one. And then even coupled with like, you really want to get again down in the weeds on this is like how expensive universities are nowadays, right? Pursuing a scholarship is an end goal in itself. Like I talk about that with our team every September. It's like, hey, this was never the goal to get here, right? The goal is like the opportunity now to go get better once you get here. You got to renew those goals and have something you're driving towards. And that I think is timeless. But what I all the way full circle on this is like, I'm afraid that it's so hard, it's becoming the end goal in and of itself. And that's going to really impede development of anybody in college, American or international. Is like, this is the platform to develop, not the place to have arrived when you get here. And I, full circle, like you said, man, the body only develops at the rate the body develops, right? Like just because all of a sudden it takes, this is arbitrary, it takes 1320 to score instead of 1340, you can't rush the process to get there, right? Like you can't. That's where I think we stay true no matter what. Is like you can't just because the bar changed. I can't make Tommy Latham develop faster than I can make him develop. Like his goals and ambitions have to maybe evolve, but like he's got to just get better tomorrow and get better the next day, and eventually like the snowball will roll and we'll get there too.
How do you coach an athlete like Michaela Page, who wins NCAAs last year and then gets beat by foreign student athletes? Like what's it look like when an athlete's actually affected by it or misses nationals at regionals because times are way faster?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's just a reality, right? Like, so, I mean, we can sit around and pout about it. I can tell you this much. Michaela that's not even a thought in her mind. It's just she wants to compete and beat them. She doesn't care if they're from down the street or around the world. Like, she wants to compete and beat them and welcomes, relishes, loves, like, the raising of the bar, right? When Parker and Ethan were here and every day another institution would post, hey, this 27-year-old Kenyan, we sign it. Dude, they would, like, bring it on. They would never sit around, oh, man, that's crazy. Be like, cool, bring it on. Like, bring it on. That's what we want. So, yeah, that's the way we've always looked at these things. That's certainly how Michaela has looked at it the last 2 years. It's like, hey, when you get to this level, two things happen. One, when you get to this level, and I told her this going into last Saturday in that final, is I think there was 8 women in that final and probably 6 or maybe even 7 of them that could have won on the day, right? And so, like, you just got to, like, at that level, you got to go out and just compete. 2 is, like, year over year progression in the placings is no longer a given, right? Like, year over year personal progression, that's what you're working towards. But year over year to say, hey, I got 5th last year, I'm going to get 3rd this year and win the next year, because this is so fluid and who's coming in and out, that is like, you have to be external to that. Like, you have to be like, man, am I getting better? Yeah, I know this. She won indoors last year. She got 2nd outdoors last year. She just got 4th. She's way better now than she was last year. Like, way better. That's all we can control, right? Like that I know for a fact. She is way better now than she was then, and that is all we have control over. And so focus on what you can control and keep getting better. But you're right. It's a little bit different at Michaela's level, right? Because you are still in that final, right? I think maybe what you're talking about is like what I see was one of the keys to our success in all my years. I think one of the things we've always done well in our teams, Georgetown, Stanford, North Carolina, develop the ladder, right? Create and craft a schedule that gives them momentum, right? So, like, particularly I thought about that between the East Coast and the West Coast was different, because the East Coast had way more meet opportunities that you could say, okay, man, I've got this freshman and that she's on the way up. Let's make sure we can get in a 4:19 race that she can win. And then in another year, it's like, let's be in a 4:15 race. And maybe then we go to the West Coast or, hey, they can go to the conference meet and make an impact. And they score in the conference as a sophomore that levels them up. And those are harder and harder to find now. Like I was talking to Sean McGorty about this the other day. And, as a sophomore, he got 8th, right, in the 5,000. Huge deal. Huge. I mean, that was like the launch pad, right? Probably nobody noticed, but look, man, getting it now that's so much harder to get that hit, right? Him walking out of there as 8th as a sophomore, been an All-American. It's like, ooh, okay. Now he goes into the summer as an All-American, and he trains every day that summer with that mentality and levels up. And man, that's what's harder and harder to create now. So good coaching is creating that momentum internally because you might not get it externally.
Do you think we'll see another NAU where, they'll win 3 championships in a row on the grass, or do you think those days are far gone of like having a dominant program?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I really don't know. I don't want to say yes or no. That's something I'm going to think about that. I don't know. I don't think that's you could just jump to say nobody could ever dominate like that again, and it'll probably look different, like in terms of that roster maybe is getting rebuilt every year in a way that like those NAU teams were like developed like 2-3 years of like guys leveling up. But I mean, look, we might see that next year, right? With what New Mexico and Iowa State are building, what they have. We may see dominant teams over the next several years if they continue to build that way too.
I'm just going to hit you with all the hot topic questions today. You mentioned Iowa State. They had sort of the doping scandal that I don't think was ever fully uncovered. Do you think doping's a big deal in the NCAA at all? Like, are your athletes tested often? Do you think that's something that people should be worried about, or do you think it's almost 100% clean?
Yeah, we're certainly tested both, on campus and by the NCAA periodically. What I would say is I'm gonna claim. I'll tell you, biggest disclaimer. I don't really know. So I'm talking total hypothetical here. I'm not going to claim I know the answers to this. I'd worry more about the ripple effect, meaning like, are people doping to get to the NCAA? And is that would be maybe what I'd worry more about on a global level, is that the NCAA getting access to it, getting into it is, as we've talked about, getting harder and harder. The potential for like compensation once you're in the NCAA is getting higher and higher. This leads to a ripple effect that I do wonder and worry that globally we may see more doping for people trying to get here along the way. I don't think that's necessarily like a pervasive issue yet, but again, as what we're investing in these people and the bar goes up, like there's always a risk of that ripple effect down the chain.
Talking about some of the other subjects in the NCAA, one that I'm curious to ask you about, the Marco Langen, Simeon, Trent McFarland. As a coach, are you loving the sort of pen relays back and forth, or are you more old school? Like, what's going on here?
The attention for the sport is great. Attention for the sport is great. Excitement is great. Even just being at Penn this year and like, man, that was exciting. I love Penn. Had a lot of history of Penn as an athlete and as a coach and as an East Coast guy, and seeing that energy there, and obviously, especially when Villanova wins one and their fan base is there, it's super, super cool and great for our sport. I say this like everybody's got to have alignment with how their teams operate every day and what they're putting out in the world. And I know what our people put out in the world is consistent with who we recruit, the values we have every day, who we want to be as people. And so those are all, those guys are, 3 great athletes. Obviously we recruited Marco and Simeon a lot, especially Marco. And so, yeah, it's just, I'd say on the flip side too, man, is I would encourage everybody to remember, as somebody who has kids who love these guys and look up to them, remember that there's a 12-year-old kid watching you, right? Remember there's a 12-year-old kid out there watching you. I'd encourage any athlete, whether you are, an NBA superstar or winning pen relays, is remember there's a 12-year-old kid out there that looks up to you the way I watch the way my son looks up to Ethan and Parker, my daughter looks up to Michaela, and just think about what message you want to put out for that 12-year-old kid in the world, and see it through that lens. And I would encourage, but I know what I do is, as the coach, remind my young people to think about that in a way that probably if somebody doesn't teach them that, they don't really default to thinking about that every day.
Are you eagerly awaiting every Marco Langen post-race interview like the average fan is, or do you not watch most of them? Do you get?
I can't. I don't watch many of them, but or any of them really. But yeah, like I said, we won. Several years ago, we recruited Marco to be in East Coast teams. We interact a lot. He has always been nothing but gracious to me and Ian, and from when we recruited him and through seeing him now, and obviously some healthy rivalries with some of our guys, which is just great fun and great for the sport. And he has never been anything but just super, super gracious to us. And dude, I root for him because he's a great competitor. And I think, going to keep getting better too.
Being an NCAA coach and seeing the NCAA rise to the level that it's presently at, like you watch a guy like Simeon Birnbaum, who I've known since his sophomore year in high school, so he's a close buddy. I'm obviously massive fan of his because of that reason, knowing him so long, seeing his success. Like, do you think that Simeon shows up to USA's this year? And Simeon looks like the next Ethan Strand, but on crack. How do you feel as you watch, obviously not your athlete, but Simeon, some of the other people, even Jane? We thought Parker Valby, we thought Caitlin Tuia was a once-in-a-generation athlete. Then Parker comes along, and now we got Jane. Are you at all impressed or surprised by some of these kids where it's just like, you're the future, this is utter dominance?
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. Again, as somebody who loves seeing the sport advance, Americans advance, and dude, watching Simeon the other night in Eugene, and I had nobody in that race, so you just could purely observe it. Man, that was world class what he did. Like, that was world class what he did over that last 500 meters, that I can think of maybe a few guys in the U.S., probably even just a few additional when you go global, that can match that right now today, right? And look, we experienced it with Ethan last year. It's a long summer, right? It's a long summer to keep that up and go at that level. But man, if there's any athlete and coach that are going to crack the code on that, it's those two, right? It's Simeon and Jerry. But yeah, what I saw the other night, there is nobody he can't run with. That's for sure, right? There's nobody he can't run with, including Ethan and those guys. And that's cool. On any given day, man, they're going to all come off that turn together and see who can do it. But yeah, that was super, super impressive what he did in that 15 the other night.
As we wrap this up, talking in June, what's the conversation like with the athletes who finish their time with you every year? The seniors or the fifth years, or the people who decide not to want to keep running? I don't know if you have that this year, but I'm sure you've had examples of that in the past, or transfers. What's that conversation like with those people who are exiting the program for the rest of the time?
Yeah, well, it goes back to a question you asked me earlier about staying in the college system. I love this time of year, or particularly you get to like May and it's graduation and all the end of the year things, and the season goes several more weeks. But and we've had a lot, like particularly on our women's team, like we had an incredible group of seniors that finished this year, like changed our whole program, 5th years. And so I've been spending a lot of time with them the last month because we've been traveling, and two, having a lot of these conversations with them that just, I love it, man. I love where they are now versus where they were when they got here. And I also love what they are taking with them as they leave. Like, it's emotional. Like, every year, timeless, man. For me, graduation, everything around graduations, I still cry. I still it never fails to hit me. Because I love that moment in their life where they're leaving here. Dude, it's scary. It's daunting in all the most awesome ways. For some of them, that may mean continuing to run. Statistically, it's, that's the outliers, right? It's more like, what am I going to do next? How am I going to take these things I did running and apply them to the next phase of my life? What am I and here's another part, right? They learned what it's like to wake up every day on fire, passionate about something in a way that few people ever even experience that in their lifetime. Awesome, also scary, because you're like, okay, well, how am I going to find the next thing that makes me feel that way, right? And Yeah, that's why I love watching the wheels turn as they're thinking about that, and you watch it start to click. I'm like, whether it's I want to go to med school, or I want to go to Wall Street, or it's like, oh man, now like, yeah, I'm going to click over and do the next thing. And so that's what all these conversations are about this time of year. Is like, what do you take from this? Go forward, and honestly too, like I love learning from them about their experience when we can really get to the end and reflect back and like, okay, what did we do well? What can we do better? How do you impact, leave something behind to help the next generation? And so, yeah, this time of year never fails to like re-inspire me in a lot of ways, even though we're tired and it's a long year, like those conversations and watching the people leave never fails to reinvigorate and re-inspire me to go, into the next year too.
Any closing words from this conversation, thoughts, reflections, challenges, Dominic's an ass, guys to watch out for?
No, this subject that you and I talked a lot about here, just the state of the landscape. It's one we've, you and I have texted and talked offline about at times that I think I'm so reticent to really discuss publicly or in any forum because I, one, do not claim to have the answers. I do not claim to know in the slightest bit what it is like being in any other situation, right? I only know the situation I'm in and the situations I have been in. And so I never want to claim I know what somebody is doing or what pressures they are under. And so I'm so reluctant to say anything in factual terms. I'm just right now in big observation and thinking mode.
You'd be a great politician. Your wife wouldn't want that, though, I'm sure. Her life's crazy
Yeah,
enough already.
Look, man, I don't want to say, hey, this guy doesn't care, this guy does care. I don't know. I'm not there every day, and I'm not in their mind and in their heart. I have my theories, right? But I never want to claim to know that, and I never want to get on my high horse about what we do here either. I just know what we believe in. I know what we have a vision for our future, and if not us, then who? Right? If not us, then who is going to continue to invest in the way we're going to be, as I always say, timely, adapt to the situation, but also timeless in the things we believe in. And but yeah, I will say there was something up in Eugene. Like there was a moment that happened there that was way different than 1 year ago. Forget 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It was different than 1 year ago. And where it will go, time will tell. Yeah, too.
The one thing I'll say, I said it a few times in this conversation about incentives is, you saying you're not going to make judgments, someone's good, bad. Like I'll get political here for a second. Taking a page from the political book, it's like, we just don't know these backdoor conversations of what the incentives are and whether people actually want to do things. Like, I'm not saying people are blackmailed or have a gun to their head, but theoretically, I think some people, they love coaching. They know they'll be replaced if they don't do certain things, if they don't win certain things, if they don't develop certain times. And there are shortcuts. There are ways to get that. And so, the classic phrase, follow the money, I would say follow the incentives. And I think for a lot of these places and programs, if the only thing that you are incentivized for is success, heck, I'd be in Kenya 24/7 too. I would not recruit Parker Wolf in high school. Why? Why when you can recruit a 59-minute half marathon guy? Why would I recruit an American high schooler when I could recruit a guy who has the same amount of eligibility and runs that pace for another 10 miles?
Yeah.
Why in the world would you do that?
Look, if you are looking at solely through that lens of performance, you're right. You shouldn't even recruit Parker Wolf. Let alone the next guy down below him. You should not have recruited Parker Wolf or Colton Sands if that's all you wanted, because the odds are not in your favor, right? Look, now obviously those guys defied the odds and became elites, but the odds are not in your favor anymore. And so I hope that we're not just solely incentivized by that. One part I'll add, and this is probably a little maybe strongly opinionated here, I do think some of these coaches are becoming an echo chamber for each other. I got to do it. I got no choice. I got to do it. I got no choice. I got to do it. And they say that to each other enough that becomes their justification. I do feel like I hear that in conversation. I got no choice. I got to do it. I got no choice. I got to do it. I don't know. No one is saying that to me in North Carolina. I don't feel that way for 1 second. Right. And so
that's why we're friends.
And so I just say I can't speak, but no one has ever said that to me. And I've never said that to a coach on my staff, and so you choose which situation you're going to be in. And it should align with your personal values, no matter what, no matter how much you get paid or anything. It's like, make sure you have that alignment there too.
Well, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I've said it off air. I've said it on air. If I was an American high schooler who was good enough, I would go to UNC in a heartbeat. So if you're an American high schooler, uh, help us reclaim our American heritage and history in the NCAA and help Milt win a NCAA title. You got people to recruit and coaches to hire and all that fun stuff. So I'll let you go, but appreciate the time as always, and hope you get a breather at some point this summer.
Yeah, thanks, Dominic. I appreciate it. Always great talking, and you gave me a lot to think about here. So we'll talk more soon.